Hey guys, it's Cynical here and welcome back to another video and a very long awaited video because today I am finally doing my DVD collection. Now it's been a very long time since I've done my last DVD collection. I think it was probably something like this time 2016 and a lot of people have been asking to see the updated collection. So here I am and here the collection is. A few things I'd like to mention is that I have seen every Doctor Who story apart from a couple which I'll mention when I get to them. And another thing is that the reconstructions you're going to see, for example the missing episodes, are reconstructions put on discs with covers printed out. I don't actually own the official episodes. If I did, I'd be rich. And if you do want to see any other sort of collection, for example, a big Finish collection, do let me know in the comments and I will eventually get round to that. But anyway, let's start off with the 60s. So the first story on the shelf is An Unearthly Child. Now, a lot of people say this is the quintessential Doctor Who story, you need to see this to be a fan, but in fact I only first saw it about 3 or 4 years ago. And yeah, a lot of people tend to give it a bit of flack because obviously the first part is unforgettable, it's the Doctor Who episode, the one that started it all. And the rest, a lot of people seem to find is quite boring and not a lot happens. I don't mind the rest, it's been a long time since I've seen it. A lot of what is given to you in the first episode is forgotten about. I was planning to make a separate video about An Unearthly Child, but for the moment, I think it's an okay story. I don't think it deserves all the flack it gets, especially for the first story. But yeah, An Unearthly Child, it's good fun. And it goes nicely into the Daleks, which again is another one a lot of people tend to give a lot of flack for, simply for the fact it's very long. It comes in at about 7 parts. And to be honest, when I last watched it, I didn't find that a problem at all. It flew by and it's a brilliant story. I'd probably give this one a 9 out of 10. It's a really enjoyable script. Terry Nation is brilliant. William Hartnell's great. The Daleks, it's a great introduction, great concepts. Everything about the Daleks it's just a great story. And again, 7 parts can be a bit slow for some people, but for me, I really do like it. The next story is Edge of Destruction. Again, another one that gets a lot of flack because it's a bit weak in my eyes. It's only 2 parts, which a lot of 2-parters get put down for their length, but I really think there are some great 2-parters. For example, The Edge of Destruction, The Rescue, Black Orchid, other ones we'll get into. But The Edge of Destruction I used to like more, but I think the acting is pretty atrocious in some scenes. It's a nice idea, a completely TARDIS-bound episode. The TARDIS looks great in this episode because you get to see the full set. It's brilliant, but yeah, some of the acting isn't on point. It's a nice idea, but it doesn't really add a whole lot. I guess it was a good way to kill 2 episodes between this and save a lot of budget before we get to this story, Marco Polo, which is probably my favourite Hartnell story. Marco Polo is absolutely brilliant. It's, again, 7 parts long, but it doesn't seem to drag when I watched it. It's a great historical, fantastic, absolutely brilliant characterizations, great acting. Hartnell's great in it. I think everyone gets something to do because of the amount of time there's in it. Obviously, 7 parts. It doesn't drag that much at all. The settings are great, the story's great. John Lucarotti is a really brilliant historical writer, and I'd say this is probably the best Hartnell story, the best from season 1. Yeah, I really enjoy it, and it's a shame that it's all missing because I love every second. But yeah, the next story is The Keys of Marinus, which was my first Hartnell, actually. I think I first saw it back in 2009, and it's stuck with me ever since. The Keys of Marinus is a great story. I really do enjoy this one. Again, gets a lot of flack because that odd scene where Ian throws a Ford down a hole and it just looks quite stupid. But I quite enjoy this one. It's like an adventure story. There's multiple parts, multiple settings, characters and whatnot of this story, and I really like it. It's really good. Yeah, check it out. It's 6 parts. It's good fun. The Aztecs. This is one of the sort of most renowned classic stories as a pure historical and a Hartnell episode. I didn't find it that great, if I'm honest. I never really have been particularly enamoured by the Aztecs. It gets a lot of praise, and it's not for me. I found it quite... It's a bit of a non-event. Not really much happens in the Aztecs. Marco Polo's better, other historicals are way better, which I'll get onto. But the Aztecs is... it's not my cup of tea, but I can see why people like it, and it's a nice sort of dealing with the consequences of time travel. I think some of the stuff was done better in Marco Polo. The next story is The Censorites. I used to absolutely hate this story when I first saw it, because it was really boring, really slow. I think it was one of my least favourite Doctor Who stories ever. But I rewatched it a few years ago in my part of my marathon, and it's actually really enjoyable. I don't know why I didn't find it as boring as I did the first time, but it's a great concept and the precursor to the Ood about 40 years later. But yeah, I really like The Censorites. It's good fun. Hartnell was great, everyone's sort of great. I can see why some people might not like it. Again, it is slow in places, but it's a great bit of world building, great concepts, and yeah, The Censorites is a lot of fun. And now the finale of the first season is The Reign of Terror, which is great. I really do like The Reign of Terror. It's been quite a long time since I've seen it. This DVD I think comes with animated parts 4 and 5, I think, are the missing episodes, or it's either 3 and 4, I can't quite remember. But the animation does slightly put me off. I'd much rather have a reconstruction than an animation, because I'm personally not a fan of some of the more recent animations. There's some good ones, like the 10th Planet and the Moon Base and whatnot, but this sort of style, this isn't the worst. There's much worse animations, which we'll come on to. This is a great story, at least. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. The next story is The Planet of Giants, which is really, really underrated. This is a nice little experiment. 3 parts, originally was 4 parts, but parts 3 and 4 got merged together because there was a lot of, well, unneeded sort of padding, and I really do like Planet of Giants. You don't really hear a lot of people talking about it. The next story we move on to is The Dalek Invasion of Earth, which is a classic. I haven't seen it as many times as I think other people have. I may have only seen it about 2 or 3, maybe 4 times. I think maybe the Cushing movie is a bit more enticing. This one does go on for quite a while, but the characters are great. It's been an awfully long time since I've seen it, but the next story after that is The Rescue, which again is a really underrated one. The Rescue is so much fun. I love The Rescue. Yeah, The Rescue gets rather overshadowed by the other stories, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. Introduction to Vicky, who is a great companion. I do quite like Vicky. The Romans this is classic. The Romans is brilliant and a very nostalgic one to me, because I think for my 6th birthday I got given the Romans audio CD, the BBC audio narrated one by William Russell, I think, and I used to listen to that to death. Every night I'd put it on, and it's sort of ingrained into my brain, and so is this story. It's really great, really funny. The comedy isn't out of place as it is in other stories, which I'll talk about. But yeah, The Romans is great. Dennis Spooner, brilliant writer. Brilliant performances. Hartnell really gets to sort of spread his wings in this one, and yeah, The Romans is brilliant. And on to a not so brilliant story with The Web Planet. I really do not like this story at all. It's boring, it's slow, it's dull. Yeah, not really much good I can say about this story. A lot of people like to let it off, but it just looks awful. It's cheap, it's tacky, it's awful. It's a lovely DVD cover by Clayton Hickman, but oh, just the rest. I will never come back to it. It's so tedious. It's just not a story I'm particularly fond of. Probably one of the worst Doctor Who stories I've ever watched, if I'm honest. The Crusade, one I should be more of a fan of. I used to watch this one more than I do now. Shame half of it is missing, and I think that's what it lets it down. It's a very action-based story, and I seem to find myself enjoying the parts that exist more than the missing episodes. It's not one I particularly enjoy. Sorry. Space Museum, again, gets a lot of flack for it being quite boring and long. I have a soft spot for it because it was one of my first. It's okay. I don't hate it. It's just sort of alright. London 1965. I love this story. It's brilliant. A lot of fun. A lot of people like to beat it to the ground because it's silly, but I don't care. Because I just laugh at it, and it's, yeah, the chase is a lot of fun. The Time Meddler, I've only seen this story once, and it was quite recently actually, because it's one of the only Hartnells I hadn't seen. And The Time Meddler was interesting. I don't think it was as good as people said it was. Maybe I need to watch it again, but there was a lot of good moments, and Peter Butterworth is great as the monk, and he returns later on in the Daleks Master Plan. Galaxy 4, awful. I don't like Galaxy 4 at all. It was, again, quite boring. Mission to the Unknown, yeah, it's alright. I mean, comparing it to the Daleks Master Plan, it is the prequel. It's the Dr. Light story, which only exists because Planet of Giants Part 4 was cut. so they had room for an extra 25-minute story. So they just made this, and I think it's quite alright. I don't think I ever actually got around to watching the recreation they made, but I definitely rate the effort that was put into that one. And this is the leaked Ian Levine animation, which is quite good. It was a really good animation. It's a shame it never came to light. The Mythmakers, this is a really good story. Again, you don't really hear this one talked about because it's completely missing, but it is really good. I really found myself enjoying this. The reconstruction is brilliant, considering they had literally nothing to work with apart from for about 4 or 5 promotional images. Yeah, the Mythmakers is a lot of fun. Great historical. This is a part of a sort of a trio I talk about, which you really never hear anything about. The 3 historicals that are all missing and just completely slip under the radar, and the Mythmakers is up there. It's an 8 out of 10. An introduction to Katarina, who was only in this episode and the next, and it's a shame because she's a really good character and I wish she'd stayed for longer. And the Daleks Master Plan, which is a fan favourite. I found myself enjoying it up until episode 7. I think I've already spoken about this in my Christmas video, but girl, Dennis Spooner, I know I praised his writing in The Romans, but this was not a place for a comedic type story. He really let it down in the second half. I was not a fan of what he did to this story. There was so much build up, and then it was all just completely wiped away in the second half. The Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve, which is again the second in this trilogy I keep on referring to, with the first being the Mythmakers, because this is probably one of the least talked about Doctor Who stories ever, and it is really good. I really do enjoy The Massacre. It's dark, it's interesting, it does the whole doppelganger thing better than that awful Flesh episode from 2011 or whenever that was. But yeah, The Massacre is good fun, and Hartnell was brilliant in it, as both of the roles of the Abbot and the Doctor, and just a great sort of moral dilemma towards the end, which leads nicely into the Ark, which is again really underrated. I do enjoy the Ark, nice sci-fi type story. I'm glad this one exists. The Monoids are great. It's essentially two-part serials shoved together, and it's really interesting. It's really good. I'd suggest you watch this one, because I don't really hear this one talked about quite a lot, and I do enjoy it. I think I did an artwork for it quite recently, which I was quite proud of. So there'll probably be like an iCard or something there if you want to check that out. The Celestial Toymaker, again another fan favourite. I really enjoyed this one when I watched it. I think it's a very visual story, so I appreciated part 4 more than the remaining 3 reconstructed parts, but even still, the Celestial Toymaker is so surreal, it's creepy, it's great, and the Celestial Toymaker himself is a great character. Now we move on to the Gunfighters, which is probably the silliest Doctor Who story ever, maybe besides The Chase. It's brilliant. It's Doctor Who as a Western, and you will go insane by hearing the Ballad of the Last Chance Saloon be played 50,000 times in your ears. But the Gunfighters is just hilarious. It's brilliant. It's a lot of fun. I really do like the Gunfighters. I think I've said a lot of these stories are a lot of fun, but this one is actually fun. It flies by. It's great. I really do like the Gunfighters. And again, another one people don't talk about is the Savages. Really, my camera's going out of focus. A really great story, really dark. Just a nice concept. I'd recommend you check these out, because when I did my 60s marathon last year, I did find there was a lot of good stories that I hadn't watched before, and the Savages is great. It's such a shame that it's missing. I'm glad we have the clips that we do, but I really wish this one's found, because it looks great as well, from what I can tell from the telesnaps and the surviving clips and promo images. This is really well shot. Yeah, the Savages is great. The War Machines, I think Max recently did a review for this one, so go and check that out if you want to. But the War Machines is okay. I think I remember comparing it to the Bells of St. John recently, in that it's essentially a better version of the Bells of St. John. Bells of St. John sort of ripped this one off. And the next story is The Smugglers, which was my favourite Hartnell story for quite a while. I'd say maybe it's been beaten by Marco Polo, but this one you really really don't hear people talk about. And again, that goes in with what I was saying about the Massacre and the Mythmakers. The Smugglers is just brilliant. I love the Smugglers. I probably give it a 9 out of 10. I was actually working on a colorized reconstruction. I don't know whether that will come to light. I never actually finished it, but yeah, the Smugglers is great. I really do like it, and yeah, I'd check it out. A lot of people really hate it. I can see why, but I love it. And the next story is The 10th Planet, and this is the animated version, I believe, of part 4 animated. I'm gutted that part 4 doesn't exist, but the telesnap reconstruction I think is probably better than the animation itself. But as a story, the 10th planet is brilliant. I really do like the 10th planet. Been a while since I've seen it. It's not the best. It's a good introduction to the Cybermen. Really cool Cyberman design. A shame we never got these back until Series 10, in which they were done brilliantly. But the 10th planet is just an awesome story and a brilliant farewell to the first Doctor, William Hartnell, who was amazing. And now we move on to Power of the Daleks, which is probably my least favourite animation. Well, one of my least favourite. We'll get on to some more in a minute, but this is a great episode. It's a shame the animation wasn't up to taste, but of course they are re-releasing it in the future, sort of reanimated, sort of retweaked. But yeah, Power of the Daleks is a brilliant story. It's such a shame it's missing, because part 6 was done on, I think it was 16mm film, so we could have had it in HD, but obviously it got junked, which is unfortunate. But it's a great, really great story and great introduction to the second Doctor. The Highlanders, I think I found a comment earlier in one of my videos of someone talking down about the Highlanders, but I really like it. It's loads of fun. Jamie's great. It's just, yeah, again, shame it's missing. Some great action scenes of the clips that do survive. Quite dark as well, but it's really awesome. I do like the Highlanders. It's a lot of fun, great historical, and yeah, great introduction as Fraser Hines as Jamie. The Underwater Menace, I actually did a review of this one recently about how I find it a pretty underrated story, a bit of a guilty pleasure, but the DVD release sucks. Again, I'm not going to talk about too much in depth with it because I'll actually get quite angry, but the DVD release is not worth your money, but I just have it as a completist thing because the reconstruction is awful. The Moonbase, this is a really good story, brilliant animation. I actually do really like this animation on this DVD release. Troughton's great, Ben and Polly actually have something to do in this story. Jamie is somewhat shoved off to the side, but the plot more makes up for that. Again, some of the science logic behind it doesn't make too much sense. I think someone pointed that out. And the recently released Macroterra animation, I don't like this cover. I think I already mentioned this in my other unboxings, but I do not like the animated style of covers they're going for. It looks somewhat alright on the Power of the Daleks in contrast to this. The Macroterra is quite a good story, growing in popularity recently, I think due to the animation. I'm not a fan of the animation. I much rather watch the reconstruction. I actually turned off the animation and put on the recon instead, which was much more enjoyable, much more accessible. Well, at least for me. I can see why other people wouldn't want to watch the recon, but to me, I just prefer that. Again, the Faceless Ones, recently animated, better cover, but still not great. Brilliant story. I haven't actually had a chance to watch the new animation, but when I watched the recon a few years ago, it was really good. And even with the Daleks, and I've just remembered that I am egotistical enough to put my own DVD cover. I actually made this cover. I'm pretty proud of it. It was quite a few years ago, but if you want to get this, I'm sure I'll leave a link in the description. But yeah, it's just because I couldn't really find any other covers that I seem to like. But the story itself is really great. Great continuation from the Faceless Ones, and introduction of Victoria, played by Deborah Watling, who's great in this. The Emperor Guard Dalek, the scene at the end when they're all blowing shit up is awesome. It's a great story. Evil of the Daleks is, yeah, brilliant. And one brilliant story after another. We've now gone into season 5, which is just a gem of a season, with Tomb of the Cybermen, which is awesome. I really do like Tomb of the Cybermen. Really enjoyable. Just check it out because it's brilliant. The Abominable Snowmen gets a lot of flack. I quite enjoy it. I remember it being quite good when I watched it, and yeah, nothing really to pick about this. It's just really enjoyable. The Ice Warriors, probably the dud of season 5. I don't like this one at all, really. Quite boring. The animation's awful. Yeah, not really my story. It's just a shame because, you know, Ice Warriors are a classic villain, and I've just never really clicked with them, really. The Enemy of the World Special Edition, really, really brilliant story. I think this is probably my favourite Troughton story, one of my favourite Doctor Who stories of all time. Almost beaten by these two, which I'll talk about in a second, but The Enemy of the World is fantastic. I really recommend you check this out, and I'm so glad they found it, because I don't know what I'd do if this one didn't exist. And that comes back to back with The Web of Fear, which again is a really, really good story. It's creepy, the characters are done so well. Just check this one out. This is also probably another solid 8 or 9 out of 10. And same goes for Fury from the Deep, which was my favourite Troughton story, but again got overtaken by Enemy of the World. but this story is awesome. I love Fury from the Deep. Again, probably a 9 or 10 out of 10. It's creepy. Again, it's a shame it's missing, but quite a lot of stuff from part 6 survives. The helicopter scenes are awesome. Yeah, Fury from the Deep is just brilliant. Check this one out. And now we move on to the Wheel in Space, which is quite overlooked. Again, probably because it's missing, but the Cybermen are awesome in this one. A really cool design. Introduction of what's her name? Fuck, how have I forgotten her name? Zoe. Introduction of Zoe, who is a great companion. Fraser Hines is great in this one, as usual. So is Troughton. He gets a lot of moments to shine. Good sci-fi story, again, overlooked. The Dominators, which is probably one of the worst Doctor Who stories I've ever watched. It's awful, it's boring. I rewatched it recently and there were actually some nice concepts in it, but even still, it's just dull. Don't waste your time with the Dominators. The Mind Robber gets a lot of praise. I only first watched it probably some point last year, or the year before, I can't quite remember. But it's, yeah, The Mind Robber's a lot of fun, quite surreal, not quite what I hoped it to be, but yeah, it's alright. It's not the best, but it's okay. The Invasion is up there though. This is brilliant. Thankfully, episodes 1 and 4 were recreated through animation. Such a shame they're missing, but the story is absolutely top. Probably an 8 or a 9 out of 10. I really do like The Invasion. It's just great. The Crotons, which is basically the Dominators but done again, so it's twice as shit. The Seeds of Death, I've never seen, so I can't comment on this one, but I think Max did a review. So yeah, I mean, go and check that out if you really want. The Space Pirates, which I've never seen. And the War Games, which I saw the first 5 parts of, and I don't think I ever returned to it, but that's not a bad thing. I do quite like where it was going. I think it was just because it's so long. I need to come back to it. It was really enjoyable from the first half. But anyway, that rounds off the 60s shelf, and it is really hot in here. Sorry if I sound out of breath, but it is a really hot day, and I am frankly melting in this room. But anyway, moving on to the 70s shelf, we start off with Spearhead from Space Special Edition, which is a brilliant story. I've seen it probably one too many times. I don't really want to come back to it anytime soon, just because I've seen it so many times. Spearhead from Space is great fun though. Great introduction to not just the Third Doctor, not just the Autons, not just Unit and Liz Shaw, even though they're all great, but probably a great introduction to Doctor Who. I'd suggest maybe watching this as an introduction to the classic series rather than An Unearthly Child or whatever. Doctor Who and the Silurians, been a long time since I watched this one, but I read the target book quite recently, same for Spearhead from Space, and yeah, Doctor Who and the Silurians is great. I need to watch it again because the target book was awesome. Again, quite long. A lot of people like to complain about the length of the stories in Season 7 because they're all 7 parts apart from Spearhead, which is 4. But again, I find this one flying by quite quickly, and I really enjoy it. Great story, great introduction to the Silurians. Yeah. The Ambassadors of Death, quite an early one for me. I remember watching the old VHS when it was in black and white. A lot of good memories attached to that, and the weird title sequences with the flash title card, that was really strange. But it's been a long time since I've seen this one. A lot of people like to defend this one actually, because it gets quite sort of overshadowed by stories like Inferno, Spearhead from the Silurians. But Ambassador of Death was quite good. Long time since I've seen it, so I'll probably have to go back to it. But yeah, good story. Inferno, really good. I really did enjoy this one. Again, Max did a review of this one. Again, if you want us to review any of these stories, do pop it in the comments and I'll be sure to get around to it at some point. But yeah, Inferno was great. I quite enjoyed it. Terror of the Autons, I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I actually prefer this to Spearhead from Space. It's just, I think this is a much better introduction. The Third Doctor's great, the Master's great. Casey Manning isn't as good as Jo Grant in this one. I think it takes her a few seasons to actually get going. But even still, she's great, and the Autons are fantastic. And that's that brilliant scene where they throw the Auton off the cliff. Yeah, great story. But I think Spearhead from Space is a better Doctor Who story as a whole, but this one is a better Auton story, I think. The Mind of Evil, it's been a long time since I've seen this one actually, and it was colorised by Babel Colour, wasn't it, and someone else who I've forgot the name of, so sorry about that. Claws of Axos Special Edition. A really underrated story. I don't really hear people talk about this one that often, but I really like it. Great cover, great story. I do quite like Claws of Axos. Colony in Space, been a very, very long time. I think it was probably 2012, 2013 when I last watched this story. The Daemons, I really like this one actually. This is one of my favourite, probably my favourite of the season. One of my favourite Pertwees. It's really enjoyable. 5 parts, a bit sort of Not the usual, it's either 4 or 6, but this one is a 5-parter. And yeah, I really do like this one. Good story. Day of the Daleks, this is the special edition. I haven't actually watched the special edition re-edit. Actually, no, maybe I have. No, I have. That's a lie, I have. And it was very good. I really enjoyed it. But it does the whole paradox thing much better than other stories have dealt with. Yeah, Day of the Daleks is good fun. The Curse of Peladon. The Peladon stories get quite a bit of a mixed reception. Curse of Peladon, again, very long time since I've seen it, but it was good fun. Some good scenes, Pertwee has some great moments, but yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it. I think I was, a lot of these stories that I'm going to talk about today, I have not watched in quite a while, so yeah, sorry if there's a bit of a lack of opinions. The Sea Devils, now this is probably going to be a very unpopular opinion, but the Sea Devils is not my cup of tea. The last time I watched it, it felt so slow. I need to rewatch it, but I can't bring myself to do it. But it felt so slow and boring and just not bad. It's just it was so long. Maybe you have a bit of a different connection. I think I was really tired when I watched it. So maybe that, you know, when you're ill, when you watch a Doctor Who episode, and you never want to come back to it because you have bad memories attached to it. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But it's an awesome cover. I like the colours on this cover. Again, Clayton Hickman, brilliant stuff. The Mutants, awful. From what I remember, nice concepts, nice build-up, but the effects, it just looks really bad. The Three Doctors Special Edition, a good multi-Doctor story. I'd say the first multi-Doctor story. They did a good job for it. Troughton and Pertwee are brilliant in it. Shame Hartnell couldn't have been in it more, but when he is also great. Omega is great. The whole antimatter thing is brilliant, but I feel better expanded on in another story, which I'll get to. Carnival of Monsters Special Edition, a childhood story for me. I absolutely love this one, especially episode 2 with the Delaware theme. 7-year-old me was in love with that. Yeah, I love this story. Absolutely brilliant. Frontier in Space, the only Pertwee story I hadn't seen until I think probably a year ago, actually, when I bought it on DVD a year before that, and I only just got around to watching it. And I don't think I was paying attention properly, but it was okay. I didn't hate it, but I don't think it was as good as people had said. I think I found it quite dull, but again, a rewatch is probably in order. And that leads into Planet of the Daleks, which I much preferred. Again, this was a childhood story when it was on the VHS and it was in black and white. I love Planet of the Daleks. It's just loads of fun. And again, people critique it by saying it's just the first Dalek story done again. I don't care. I love it. It's brilliant. And the Green Death. An absolute quintessential Doctor Who story. This has got everything. This has got the Third Doctor, it's got Joe, Unit, it's just the whole shebang of the Pertwee era, and the Barry Letts sort of era as a whole, and this is sort of the beginning of the end for the Third Doctor, and it is amazing. The Time Warrior, dare I say overrated? It's just not one that particularly, again, it was a childhood favourite, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. I don't think it deserves the praise it gets. There's been better Sontarans in my eyes, but Robert Holmes is a brilliant writer. He's my favourite classic writer, and he's done some great stuff, but this is not one of my favourites for him. Sarah Jane, oh god, I'm going to have to say this at some point, but Sarah Jane is just overrated in my eyes. I don't see why she gets the love that, you know, Ace is way better, Leela's way better. There's just way better companions than Sarah Jane. I don't understand why she gets so much love. Like, she's not bad, it's just why her in particular is what I'm saying. Invasion of the Dinosaurs, okay, a lot of people like to give it flack because of the dinosaurs, and yeah, they look stupid, but look past that, and you've actually got yourself a pretty decent 7-parter behind it. Death to the Daleks, really fun, really enjoyable, yeah, just brilliant Sunday viewing, I'd say. The Monster of Peladon, maybe I prefer this one to Curse of Peladon, actually. The Third Doctor's costume is definitely better, and the Ice Warriors, I think, do a bit more in this one. Yeah, again, nothing too special, but it's a nice story. And now we move on to the final Third Doctor story, Planet of the Spiders, which Planet of the Spiders is okay. I mean, the final game, I think, was that what it's called? The intended finale for Pertwee's Doctor would have been so good, but it's a shame that never happened due to the sad passing of Roger Delgado. But yeah, Planet of the Spiders it's somewhat enjoyable, and it brings the whole MORBIUS 3 thing into action that was introduced in the Green Death, and I guess Carnival of Monsters. But yeah, Planet of the Spiders, good send-off for the Third Doctor. And now we move on to the absolute legendary Season 12, starting off with Robot, which is probably my least favourite of the season. I found this one quite boring in the middle. Again, it's probably been about 3 years since I actually last saw this one. Yeah, nice idea, but I'll probably need to go back to it at some point. Ark in Space Special Edition. Yeah, I rewatched this one a couple of months ago, actually. I don't think it's as good as people say. Nice ideas, but yeah, there's better stories than it, especially stories like the Sontaran Experiment, which again gets really overlooked. But Steyr is absolutely brilliant. This story looks awesome. The next story is Genesis of the Daleks. This is just brilliant. I'd give this one a 10 out of 10. I used to think this one was overrated, but then I remembered and I actually watched it, and it's so good. You really cannot get better than Genesis of the Daleks. And a lot of people like to complain that the Daleks aren't in it that much. Revenge of the Cybermen gets a lot of hate. I don't mind it. Again, this is one of the first Doctor Who stories I ever saw, so there's nostalgia in it, but yeah, it's not awful. Been a long time. Again, I know I keep on saying this, but it's been a very long time since I've actually watched any of these, so I will get around to them. Terror of the Zygons. I was thinking about this earlier. It's interesting how, I mean, Robert Banks Stewart must have done it well if, you know, the Zygons were perceived as like a classic, fan favourite monster if they only appeared just this once, and they sort of went down in history as one of the best Doctor Who villains ever. But yeah, this one's, I remember the setting being quite good. Tom's quite good in it. The Zygons are great, and this is an awesome cover. I remember, I don't know why, but this was one of the last DVDs they ever released. I don't know why it took them so long. I mean, there was going to have to be one of them, wasn't it? But I don't know why it took them so long to get around to this one. Planet of Evil, which, again, I was talking about the whole antimatter thing in the Three Doctors. This is done way better. I love Planet of Evil. It's so underrated, but the sets are awesome. It looks brilliant. Tom's great. Elizabeth Sladen's great. It's just, yeah, a really, really awesome story. Flies by. I might pop this one after I finish filming this, actually, because it's just really enjoyable. Yeah, Planet of Evil is fantastic. And actually, now I move on to Pyramids of Mars, which is, again, another fan favourite. And I was actually going to rewatch this one the other day, but again, I didn't get around to it. I find this one overrated, quite frankly. I don't know why it gets all the love it does. I can understand some of it. It's good, but it's no Genesis of the Daleks. It's no Kaiser Androzani. It's not Remembrance. It's just Pyramids of Mars. I've, again, only seen it once. It was just sort of okay. Nothing particularly stood out. There was some quite scary, intense moments, but yeah, nothing that particularly took my interest. Android Invasion, this one's very underrated. I'd say this one's probably better than Pyramids of Mars. Great concepts, looks awesome. Yeah, Android Invasion is just a lot of fun. Brain of Morbius, yeah, this one's quite good. That awful ending scene, I won't spoil it, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Brain of Morbius is good fun, and yeah. Seeds of Doom, again a fan favourite. For a long... I don't think I ever finished watching this one when I last watched it, but that cliffhanger for episode 2 is brilliant. Yeah, Seeds of Doom is alright. Hand of Fear, again, this was one of the most recent Doctor Who stories I saw, in the fact that I hadn't seen this one up until probably last year or the year before that, and it was really, really disappointing. And I think I remember Wingy Media actually defends this one because it was a childhood classic. But the Hand of Fear for me is just, it was so promising in the first half, and it's really weird. It's a really weird story. It's shot really bizarrely, and it's just odd. And even the DVD cover's a bit strange. I mean, it was one of Lee Binding's first, and it's not his sort of signature art style. It's quite strange. Yeah, Hand of Fear is just... The Deadly Assassin, this is a classic. A really, really good story. Deadly Assassin's just brilliant. The Doctor's great, the Master's great, and this one was Robert Holmes, wasn't it? Yeah, Robert Holmes. No wonder it's so fantastic. Yeah, Deadly Assassin's just brilliant. Robots of Death, with this really exciting cover from the original release. Robots of Death is the same sort of scenario with the Aztecs. Not a whole lot happens. I find it pretty overrated, in my opinion. So yeah, sorry, but I just don't really like it. Talons of Weng Chiang, really good story. Been, again, a long time since I've seen it, but yeah, from what I remember, it was quite good. Horror Fangrock, brilliant story, 4 parts, just flies by, a lot of fun, great story for the Rutans. It'd be nice to actually see the Sontarans against the Rutans one day, and not that random scene from whatever it was, Name of the Doctor, but I'd actually like to see them go head to head in a battle in an actual episode. That would be quite cool. Image of the Fendal, underrated, quite dark. I listened to a Big Finish they recently did, I think it was called Island of the Fendal, one of the 8th Doctor and Lucy reprised audios. That was quite good, and this one is, it's alright. It's not my favourite, but it's, yeah. Invasion of Time, now, I used to adore this one. This one used to be actually my favourite Doctor Who story of all time. And then, I think I tried rewatching it probably 2 years ago, and I couldn't get past the first part. It was just boring. Yeah, I like the Sontarans are great though. I like the final 2 parts when they come in, and that cliffhanger's great. And there's that hilarious bit where the Sontaran falls over a garden chair and just completely face palms the ground. It's hilarious. Now we move on to the Key to Time era with the Reboss operation, which I started watching last night, but I fell asleep. From what I remember, when I didn't fall asleep when I watched this episode before, it's pretty average. It's probably the most average Doctor Who story ever. You don't really hear it talked about much, but it's a good setup, and yeah, it's alright. And the next story is the Pirate Planet, which gets a load of flack. I actually started reading the novelisation they did of this, but it's, I mean, you've got to look past some of the silly aspects, because the Pirate Planet is great. It's Douglas Adams. How can you not love Douglas Adams? Yeah, it's a really good story. I really do like it. Stones of Blood, I don't really remember this one that well. Gets a lot of flack. Androids of Tara, probably, yeah, overrated. Well, it's good fun. It's just, it's not as good as I think other people say it is. Yeah. Power of Kroll, this story is hilarious. Yeah, Power of Kroll is alright. I don't really remember it that well, but from what I do remember, it's pretty hilarious. The Armageddon Factor, this one again, people take against quite a lot, but I didn't really hate it. There were some good moments. Lala Ward's introduction to Doctor Who, she's pretty good in this, and Mary Tam as Romana Warren is absolutely brilliant. Destiny of the Daleks, again a story people take against, but I really like it, and I know Max really likes this one as well. Really good considering they had absolutely no budget on it all. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's only like 1 musical cue in the whole episode because they couldn't actually afford any music. But yeah, they did really, really well considering they essentially had no money. But yeah, great story. And now we move on to the City of Death, which is just quintessential. This is a really good story. I can't believe I made that top 10 list and didn't put this in. I completely forgot about the City of Death, which is hard to imagine if you've ever actually seen this story, because it is so, so good. It's just really accessible. The music is fantastic. It's just, again, a childhood classic. City of Death is just brilliant. And at the end of here we have Shada, which obviously has the legacy because it was never finished due to strikes. And I feel like that legacy slightly builds it up. I feel like a lot of people probably appreciate it just because of the story behind it. But personally, I enjoy it as the story itself. I'm not that fussed by the new animation, but the old VHS, I guess you want to call it a recon with Tom Baker, I really do enjoy Shada. It's a great story, and it's a great finale. Shame, well, I mean, this would have been such a better finale than The Horns of Nimon, because that story is just embarrassing. But that wraps up the 70s shelf, and we will now move down onto the 80s shelf. Starting off in the 80s with the Leisure Hive, which is, yeah, this one gets a lot of flack. I'd say look past some of the, dodgy monster looking design made out of bubble wrap. I quite like the Leisure Hive. It's a lot of fun, great concepts about, sort of power and jealousy. Yeah, the Leisure Hive is really good. Meglos, again, I think Max made a video about this one, or it's part of a top 10 video. But Meglos is really quite, it's an interesting story. Obviously the Doctor getting turned into a cactus. But yeah, Meglos is, I feel like it doesn't deserve the flack it gets. Full Circle, the start of the E-Space trilogy, boring. I think it's probably the weakest out of season 18. It's not great. State of Decay, I really don't remember this one. It's been, yeah, absolutely, I think it's probably been a decade since I actually properly watched this one, so I'm really not going to remember any of it at all. Warriors Gate, this is one of the first Doctor Who stories I ever saw, so there's loads of nostalgia attached to it. Great concepts, great villains, great, just, yeah, Warriors Gate can be very confusing. Again, it's been ages since I've seen it, but yeah, I remember it being really awesome. Keeper of Traken, one I didn't actually watch properly until, I'd say probably something like 2016, 2017, and it's not brilliant, but it's a nice story. It's a nice lead up to Logopolis and Castrovalva bringing the Master back. Yeah, it's alright, but Logopolis is where it's at for me. Again, this and Castrovalva, I have fond memories of watching this with Max at our nan's house back in probably something like 2010, 2011. Brilliant, really great story. I know a lot of people don't like this one because it's boring, it's complicated, whatever. I love it, I will always love it. The score is brilliant. Tom Baker's regeneration is flawless, quite literally. Castrovalva, brilliant. Again, I actually don't know why people don't like this one. It's great post-regeneration story, introduction to sort of the whole regeneration cycle. And there's some great stuff in here, like the concepts, and just Peter Davison's brilliant. It's just loads of fun. Now, another childhood classic for me is Four to Doomsday. Really, really awesome. Again, a lot of the stuff in season 19 gets overlooked. It's actually one of my favourite Doctor Who seasons, I think. Yeah, Four to Doomsday is great. Give it a chance before you slag this one off, because there's some really awesome concepts. Some, yeah, really brilliant cliffhangers in that one. Kinder, I didn't properly watch this one until it was released on the Blu-ray last year, but Kinder's brilliant. Well, I say brilliant, it's a nice sort of dreamy, surreal type story, great sets. And again, I think I did another artwork for this one, which I was quite proud of. But yeah, Kinder is quite good. The Visitation, and I have this really old discoloured DVD that I don't think ever came with the leaflet, if you look in there. So I am in order to buy the special edition, essentially. But as a story, The Visitation is great. Yeah, a lot of fun. Just a great pseudo-historical, and yeah, really overlooked, but a brilliant story. And Eric Saywood's actual first contribution to Doctor Who. And it's, considering this is probably his weakest, that is in no way saying it's bad. You know, Eric Saywood's got a pretty good track record, I mean, at least when it comes to script writing. Black Orchid, I've already said how much I think this story is overrated. I think I put it at number 4 in my top 10. Yeah, Black Orchid is brilliant, and I'm so glad to see that they released the extended cut on the Blu-ray. But yeah, Black Orchid is amazing, and sadly the only pure historical we got for quite some time. Earthshock, this one again is a fan favourite, quite intense, and the farewell to Adric, which is just a brilliant moment. Yeah, the Cybermen aren't done as well in this one, but it was great to see them back. Yeah, it's not my favourite, but Earthshock is up there. Time Flight, which is just abominable. Time Flight is one of the worst Doctor Who stories ever. Part 1 was really promising, but the rest is just dreadful. It's stupid, it's just makes no sense, and I've already ranted about this before, but this DVD cover is awful. I don't know the content. I think, well, it was made by someone called Dan Budden, who only did this, called the Tegan Tales box set, which Arc of Infinity people also slag off this cover. But my god, that Time Flight DVD cover is awful, and there's even some mistakes on the backs of the DVDs. I think on Arc of Infinity there's I think a few words of the blurb are actually in bold text for no reason, and some of the special features are listed twice. It's just awful release. Yeah, just dreadful. Arc of Infinity gets a lot of flack. I'd say this one's probably a bit more of a guilty pleasure. I think Time Flight's still a guilty pleasure. It's awful, but it's somewhat entertaining for parts of it. And the Arc of Infinity, again, the DVD cover's pretty dreadful. Oh, it's great to see Omega back. I think it's weird seeing Colin Baker as well, in role of, I think it's Commander Maxiel. And the Fifth Doctor's pretty good in this one. It's not the best, but I definitely don't. Yeah, I'm a bit mixed on this one. It's been a long time since I've seen it, so I'll have to go back to it. Snake Dance, it's been absolutely years and years since I last watched this one, so I couldn't really comment, sorry. Now we move on to Mordrin Undead, which is just beautiful. Now, say what you want about the story, but this was one of the first Doctor Who stories I ever saw, and I used to watch it all the time, and it's ingrained into my brain. The score is absolutely perfect. Paddy Kingsland just knows exactly what he's doing, and the story is so nostalgic. It's brilliant. It's a pretty nostalgic story in of itself, so the fact that this is one of the first Doctor Who stories I ever saw doesn't help, when it does help, because I just love the shit out of this. But yeah, Mordred Undead is brilliant, and I will always love it for the score. I think I had an MP3 file of the full 45-minute score, which I used to listen to all the time. That is just really awesome. Terminus, this is shit. I don't even care. This is fucking awful. One of the worst, probably the worst Doctor Who story of all time, besides that dreaded Capaldi Christmas special, which I won't talk about. Yeah, Terminus is just dreadful. Really badly acted, bad script writing, awful departure story for Nyssa, and you know you've got a bad script when the main cast aren't even putting in the effort because they hate it so much. Yeah, Terminus is dreadful. That's all I've got to say. Really bad story. Probably a 1 out of 10, because at least part 1 is somewhat enticing, but the rest is just dreadful. Enlightenment. I remember the TARDIS looking really cool. Again, a lot of nostalgia, because it's one of the first I saw. There's the great looking TARDIS console room in it, but for the rest of it, I don't really remember it, despite it only being probably a year or two since I watched it. Again, nostalgia, but yeah. And we move on to the brilliant The Five Doctors, the 25th Anniversary Special Edition. Just classic. Again, a childhood for both me and Max. We used to watch this together. Just great. I love The Five Doctors. I feel like I can't really talk about it as a story. I can't really critique it just because it's so... Yeah, Five Doctors is brilliant. Warriors of the Deep, again, I think me and Max both somewhat defend this one. It's... I mean, I tried so hard to like it, but it's just dull. It's boring. I think I turned it off after the first part when I last tried watching it. There's some good... I think it's part 1, the cliffhanger's good. The Awakening, underrated, really great. Historical, and even though, yeah, it's only 2 parts, so if you don't like it, it doesn't really outstay its welcome. Yeah, The Awakening's great. Frontios, really underrated. I actually bought this, is quite a recent addition to the collection. I think I unboxed this on a video a couple of months ago. Frontios is really good concepts, quite overlooked, good story. Resurrection of the Daleks Special Edition, sorry you can't see that. Resurrection of the Daleks Special Edition. Max, again, I think he reviewed this one. I'm quite fond of it. Yeah, it's very dark, good fun, introduction to Lytton and all this stuff. Very 80s, great stuff. Again, Eric Saywood knows how to do a Dalek story. Caves of Androzani, which is very popular among the fandom and has been voted #1 Doctor Who story ever, multiple times I think. And maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But yeah, Caves of Androzani, very good. Again, I didn't include it in my top 10, I don't know why. I think it's just better stories than it, but it's still awesome. I do really like the Caves of Androzani. Attack of the Cybermen, underrated. I know Farron likes this one quite a lot, and I can agree with him. Yeah, great stuff. Cybermen are pretty awesome in this one. The crowns are a bit silly. I feel like quite slow though. A lot of the season 22 stuff is quite slow because of the pacing with the 45-minute. It allows for less to be done in a way. With 25 minutes, if the story's going to drag, you could always have it as a 3-parter, but with this you have to have it as a 2-parter, which is quite annoying. Vengeance on Varos, all praise to Syl. Yeah, Vengeance on Varos is a fan favourite, but oddly I think it's probably my least favourite of the season, maybe. Now it's a very controversial statement considering this is the same season that includes Time Lash. But yeah, I used to love this. I still do quite like it. I've seen it quite a lot though, maybe one too many times. Again, it's quite slow, it's quite long, quite padded, quite dark though. Yeah, Vengeance on Varos it's alright. Mark of the Rani, one I really don't hear talked about a lot, rather forgotten that it's a Master episode. But Colin's great in this one. It's the closest we ever got to a 6th Doctor historical. Pure historical, that is. This is a nice pseudo-historical. Colin's great. The cliffhanger is stupid, but I love it. Yeah, there's some great stuff. I should probably rewatch this one again. Because it's been, I think I remember the day. I think it was some point in 2016 when I last watched this one. But yeah, Mark of the Rani is fun. The Two Doctors. Now, interestingly enough, this used to be my favourite Doctor Who story ever. Not that it's bad. but it's gone down. It's gone down since, but that's not that it's bad. It's just I haven't seen it since. I've seen better stories than it since, like a Genesis of the Daleks and whatnot. But yeah, the Two Doctors is loads of fun. Oddly, the weakest part about it, I'd probably say, is the fact that the second Doctor's in it. It wasn't completely necessary. I don't think Troughton does a whole lot in it, but he's great. It's great to see Colin in that awesome waistcoat. Stike is an awesome Sontaran. The setting is it's just shot so well. I love the shots in Seville. Perry and Jamie get on like a house on fire. I love that companion duo. I wish we would have had more stuff with the Sixth Doctor, Perry and Jamie, because they are awesome. And it's a really, really dark story. I'm surprised that it's not acknowledged, because there's so much in this story that I'm surprised this was allowed on TV. And in fact, they got a complaint in, didn't they? Because there's a scene where Shocklight eats a live rat off the ground, which is lovely. And then the Doctor gets stabbed, and then he chloroforms a guy, doesn't he? Yeah, really dark. I can see why Michael Gredd was getting pissed off about this. And here we are. It's Time Lash, the infamous story for being probably the worst Doctor Who story ever. And I made that video where I defended it to within an inch of my life. I don't care what anyone says. Time Lash is just fun. It's not as bad as people say. I think the Twin Dilemma is probably worse. But yeah, Time Lash, it's fun in my eyes, and no one's going to be able to take that away from me. Revelation of the Daleks. Now, this is a really, really good story. I think I'd put this one again up there in my top 10. Yeah, it's great. Again, Eric Saywood knows how to do his Daleks. It's such a shame we never actually got the season 23 that was meant to take place after this. Davros is great, the Daleks are great, that glass Dalek looks awesome, Colin's brilliant, everyone gets something to do, and I think that's just the beauty of Eric Saywood's writing in the 80s. He really, really knows how to, obviously him being script editor helped, but he just knows how to nail a Doctor Who episode. And now moving on to Robert Holmes's, unfortunately, his final complete Doctor Who story, Trial of a Time Lord Part 1, The Mysterious Planet, which is again, it's same case as same case as Mordred Undead, and another one we'll get onto in a minute. This is just pure childhood for me. Part 1 is just brilliant. Yeah, I ought to watch this one again actually, because I've got it on Blu-ray, which we'll get onto in a minute. But The Mysterious Planet is great fun, brilliant concepts. I think Max called it a rich man's Orphan 55, which I think is a great way to describe it. If you like the ideas of Orphan 55 like I do, then you'll probably love this story, again, like I do. The black light converter thing with Drathro and the twins, and just, it's weird, but it's fun, and it's awesome, sort of post-apocalyptic Earth, which is just awesome. And the whole Trial of a Time Lord thing is a bit messy, but it's a nice concept. And then we move on to Mind Warp again. Praise Lord Kiv and Lord Sill, and Brian Blessed there at the top, looking very angry with his very shiny head on this DVD cover. Yeah, Mind Warp again is one I never saw, because I used to have the whole Trial of a Time Lord thing as a kid, but I never had Mind Warp for some reason. Mind Warp when I finally got round to watching it was really awesome. That pink sea. Again, I'm trying not to think about what I made in my last video. If you haven't seen that, I'd recommend you check it out, and I'd also recommend you don't. Yeah, Mind Warp is awesome. Great exit for Perry. Yeah, awesome stuff. Terror of the Vervoids, again, gets a lot of flack, this one. I don't quite know why. Now, it is the introduction of Mel, and she is annoying as fuck in these, in the Trial of a Time Lord two parts that she's in. But as a story, it's an awesome base under siege, sort of stuck in space, sort of holiday cruise liner, I guess, sort of story. It's loads of fun, and that of course, that cliffhanger for Part 1 is just a classic. Gotta love Terror of the Vervoids. I really do like it. And the finale of that season, The Ultimate Foe, which is really quite good. Again, such a shame that Robert Holmes passed away after writing the first episode, which means Pip and Jane Baker had to take over. I think I'd rather have someone like Eric Saywood again take over, but yeah, this story is surreal, it's creepy. I'm not really sure I like the direction that Pip and Jane Baker took it in, but it's a nice idea anyway. It's really accessible. Again, 2 parts. Just whack this one on when you're feeling you want some Doctor Who. Again, it doesn't have to be completely linked to the others. It does help if you want to marathon them all in a row. But also, tell me, do you guys class them as 4 different stories, or as a whole 14-part episode? I'm not sure what... I remember them on the ident saying a 14-part Doctor Who adventure, So I think it's 14 parts. I class it as one 14-parter, I guess. And now we move on to the 7th Doctor era with Time in the Rani, which again, pure childhood, nostalgic, and really nice concept actually. I watched this one the other day, and it's yeah, I don't mind it. It's I can see why people dislike it, but it's really well shot. Kev McCulloch is great. His music is fantastic, and yeah, Time in the Rani is quite cool. Paradise Towers, I adore Paradise Towers. It's fantastic. A lot of people again take against this one, but there's a little group of us who love Paradise Towers. Blue Kangs for life, by the way. Red Kangs can fuck off. Paradise Towers is just awesome. Really great. And now here it is. Again, I've mentioned this before, and I was going to make a video about it, but I might as well do it here and say that Delta and the Bannerman, this is my favourite Doctor Who story ever. Purely for the fact that it was the first Doctor Who story I ever saw. Again, same case as Mordred Undead and Mysterious Planet. I used to just watch the hell out of this, but this is the #1 for me. I actually see if I think I have it here actually. Here is the original VHS that was put onto a DVD disc that I used to watch. The beautiful cover, and these covers aren't online anymore, so I guess this is somewhat special. But Delta and the Bannerman is just so nostalgic, and the score is amazing. I absolutely love the soundtrack for this one, and everything is just top form. I will cry if I have to watch this episode again because of how much I love it. And I know there's a lot of people who defend it because they think it's always fun, it's silly, but no, this story is so close to my heart and I adore it. And now move on to Dragonfire, which is Ace's introduction, isn't it? I forgot that. All I can think of is that shot where the guy's head melts. That was awesome. Yeah, Dragonfire, pretty decent. Iceworld looks cool. I can't really remember much about the thing, but then Glitz comes back, doesn't he? Yeah, that's odd. Remembrance of the Daleks Special Edition, brilliant. Probably my favourite Doctor Who story ever. In fact, it's up there with Genesis. And I know I said Delta and the Bannerman is my favourite. I think there's a difference between your favourite story and the best story. I think, again, this relates back to the video I was talking about where Wingy Media made a video about Hand of Fear, and the fact that that was his favourite, but also not the best. You know, Delta and the Bannerman is my favourite Doctor Who story, always will be, but Remembrance is the best, or Genesis, I'm still undecided. But yeah, Remembrance is just class. It's just watch it. It's just awesome. I can't really sum it up in a few words, but just watch it. The Happiness Patrol, great fun. The Candyman is awesome. I think the Candyman is great when he came back in Big Finish in Ravenous. Their awesome design. A lot more threatening than he is in this episode, but even still, it's great how whimsical and odd this episode is. Silver Nemesis, it's 3 parts of pure shit, but it's fun shit at the least, because Kevin Clarke made it up, the whole plot line up on the spot in an interview. I mean, he's got balls, definitely. The Cybermen are awful in the story, they're really weak, but it's great that scene where they're shooting the neo-Nazis in the field and blowing shit up, and Ace is shooting them with a slingshot, and it's stupid, but I want to watch it again. Great. Greatest Show in the Galaxy. This, surprisingly, is probably my least favourite 7th Doctor story, and the 7th Doctor is my favourite classic Doctor. I mean, that is if you are going to acknowledge Paul McGann. But, yeah, The Greatest Show in the Galaxy I've just never found the time to get round to recently, because I actually thought it was 3 parts, and then it turned out it was 4 parts, so I never actually found the time to watch it. But yeah, nice cover, at the least. But yeah, Greatest Show in the Galaxy is, yeah, I ought to watch it at some point. Battlefield, great story, I think, from what I remember. Again, the TARDIS looks awesome in this one. It's like the same thing as Enlightenment, because I believe the TARDIS walls got damaged in between the production of the episode, so they had to build up a new set of walls and just dim the lights to make it look like there was no difference, but it actually looks really cool. And yeah, Battlefield is really awesome. Great to see the Brigadier back as well. Ghostlight makes no sense whatsoever, but it's just so much fun. 3 parts of just pure madness, horror. It's just, yeah, I don't care for an explanation. I know a lot of people want one, but I just love it for what it is. The Curse of Fenric, one of the best Doctor Who stories ever. I think I put this one at number 2. Brilliant stuff. The special edition is just, it's fantastic. Yeah, really decent stuff in this episode. I'd recommend you check this one out. I used to find it quite complicated, but I think it was some point last year where I watched it, and I immediately wanted to watch it straight afterwards again, just to show how much I loved that thing. And at the end here we have Survival, which is almost the same thing as Sharded in the fact that, you know, this is the last story, is that maybe why it gets built up so much, but I adore this episode. I always have. Again, childhood classic, 3 parts, just flies by, really brilliant. Love, this is what Doctor Who would have been like in the 90s, and it's a great story for Ace. Season 26 is a great season for Ace, and she's my favourite classic companion, which just makes it even better. Sylvester McCoy's great in this, Anthony Ainley is great in this as the Master. Yeah, Survival is just brilliant. Now we move on to the movie, the TV movie, which is just brilliant. I love the TV movie. A lot of people will hate it because of its continuity errors, but I don't care. Just ignore those. The TARDIS is brilliant, the score is brilliant, McGann is brilliant, even Eric Roberts is not the worst Master in my eyes. Yeah, the TV movie is just spectacular. I'd probably give it a 9 or 10 out of 10. It's just, the score is just I love it so much. And at the end we have More Than 30 Years in TARDIS. I think I must have only seen this one once, but very nostalgic. Even though I wasn't alive in the 90s, but it's that music at the end. I love it. And also at the end here we have Lost in Time. Now, I remember people saying to me before I even bought this that, you know, you need to get Lost in Time because it's just quintessential, and I always thought, well, do you really need to get it? I mean, I'm sure you can just find the episodes online. No. For someone who is much of a missing episode whore, as I am, Lost in Time is just an essential, and it's great to see all the episodes that were the surviving episodes. Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely love Lost in Time. And anyway, that concludes the entire classic collection, quite a vast collection. Now I am going to quickly run you through the other stuff, for example the new series down there, but I would also like to divert you up to the top where I have the Blu-rays. Now these are the newly released sort of collection sets that they've been releasing over the past, I think it's probably 3 years now in fact. But yeah, I managed to pick up season 18, 19, which is just brilliant as I said earlier, 23 and 26, in fact I unboxed season 26 a couple of months back when it was released. But yeah, really great stuff. I'm loving the collection sets. Bit of a bummer about the recent stuff like series 12, how they completely messed up the release of that, the re-release rather. Season 14 again, people were pretty unhappy with some not turning up or whatever. But yeah, I'm really interested to see what the next one is, and I'm sort of picking up the only ones, my favourites, and I'm just, again, so salty I didn't get season 12. And now we move on to the little last bit of the collection, the new series. Now, I'm not as an avid collector of the new series DVDs as I am the classics. Obviously, there's less to get. But I'll just run you through them quickly. Obviously, I have my brilliant 8th Doctor comics here, which I am loving, by the way. But anyway, onto the DVDs. We've got Series 1 here, which is just class. I adore Season 1, Series 1 rather. Eccleston is brilliant. Everything, this series is a 10 out of 10. And I've actually been doing commentaries with Max. Well, we recorded them back in January or February or something like that. And the series finished last week. I don't know when this video is going out, but with Parting of the Ways, and it was I absolutely loved doing it all. I hope you guys actually enjoyed watching them. But even still, Series 1 is just brilliant. There's not a bad episode, and the weakest is probably The Long Game. I know everyone says that, but everything about this series is brilliant. I love it. Series 2, this series is a bit mixed rather. There's some really great stuff in there, like Rise of the Cybermen. I rewatched that one the other day. Same for the finale, that's brilliant. And of course Love and Monsters, which I will love forever and ever. I don't care what anyone says, it's a brilliant story. Yeah, I'm just looking at the back of it. Idiot's Lantern, underrated. The Satan Pit, that one's really overrated. This one gets a bit of a mixed reception, but it's quite nostalgic to me. Series 3, brilliant, absolutely fantastic series. There's some brilliant stuff in here. For example, the finale is just, the 3 parts, it's just beautiful. I love it all. Again, childhood stuff. Human Nature and the Family of Blood, I rewatched that one the other day, that's great. Blink is, I always thought that one was quite overrated, but I've come to appreciate it more. Again, the Weeping Angels still don't really do it for me, but the story itself is pretty awesome. Yeah, everything about this series, again, it's not as good as Series 1, but it's up there. Really good. And there's also some singular releases like The Runaway Bride, Series 3 Volume 4. Again, this was the DVD I owned when I was 7 years old, just watching that over and over. Voyage of the Damned, which is just, again, I know I keep saying it, but pure nostalgia. Same for Time Crash. And Series 4, Volume 1. For some reason, I decided to get Series 4 in volumes rather than box set form, just because I was stupid. But yeah, Series 4, Volume 1, Partners in Crime is fun. Fires of Pompeii's alright, and Planet of the Ood is underrated. The Sontaran Stratagem and the Poison Sky is somewhat, yeah, it's pretty awful. The Doctor's Daughter is okay, and The Unicorn and the Wasp is really underrated, despite the writer being a prick. It's like a sort of a new series version of Black Orchid, which I'm going to love anyway. Series 4, Volume 3, this is just brilliant. Sorry, you might not be able to see that in the light, but this, Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead and Midnight are all 10 out of 10s. I cannot stress enough how much I love these episodes. They are absolutely brilliant, really scared. I think these actually scare me, which is what makes me love them so much, the fact that I'm actually scared to watch these episodes. And Volume 4, which has Turn Left, which is probably the best. The finale doesn't really do it for me. I know a lot of people like that one because, you know, it's a summary of their childhood, and yeah, I understand that, but Turn Left is probably better. The Next Doctor, really, really awful episode. Planet of the Dead, underrated. I really do like that one. Waters of Mars and The End of Time. I don't know why they released these two in the box set, but I have it anyway. Waters of Mars is really, really brilliant. 10 out of 10. And End of Time, again, nostalgic. I'll probably give that one a 6 or a 7. It's a bit mixed. And now move on to probably the most controversial part, because and people will know I don't really like this era. Series 5 Volume 1, again, this is a very nostalgic DVD for me. 11th Hour is just brilliant, but the rest of the series is kind of mixed. I don't actually have it on DVD, I'll just watch it on iPlayer or something because I can't be bothered to actually spend money on it. Series 6, okay, I think it's a good series to binge watch. Actually binge watched it all, the entire Matt Smith era. Well, no, I binge watched Series 4, 5 and 6 earlier on in the year, and this one is just, it's not awful. I think it's entertaining, but it's what Moffat did to Doctor Who at this point is just I really hate it. I don't have Series 7, that is for a reason. Day of the Doctor, great fun, I love this, and Night of the Doctor is brilliant. Deep Breath, okay, I just really don't remember this episode. Series 9, Part 1, bit mixed, okay, Clara's good. I can't really remember the stories and I don't really want to. Series 9 Part 2, the Zygon 2-part is good, Hellbent is fucking awful, and Heaven Sent is alright. Sorry about that guys, my camera ran out of battery, but I'm back, and the 11th Doctor Christmas Specials DVD, I'm not entirely sure why I bought this, but it has all the 11th Doctor Christmas episodes on it, including the Christmas Carol, which I hadn't watched since it aired, and I hated it until I watched it a couple of months ago at Christmas, and I actually really liked it. But there's also stuff like, I mean, let me have a look at, we've got Doctor, the Within the Wardrobe, which is pretty awful, and The Snowmen, which is quite enjoyable, and so is Time of the Doctor. I actually don't mind that one. And at the end here, we just have some random bits and pieces, like Dreamland, which is just, oh god, it's so bad. Adventure in Space and Time, which is really good. I really do like Adventure in Space and Time, and the original Spared from Space release, because I got the special edition now, and some other things like this Christopher Eccleston, John Lennon thing, and other movies and bits and pieces. But essentially, that brings to a close the DVD and I guess / Blu-ray collection update. Again, there's light shining everywhere, sorry I can't really do much about that, but it's because I've been here so long. Sorry if that video was a bit long, but you know, I had to review all these episodes, so it wasn't exactly going to be short. But hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want me to actually review any of these stories, or maybe do a Big Finish collection or some of the books, then make sure to comment below and tell me what you thought and what you want to see. Thank you for all the support on the channel. As usual, I'm really thankful for everyone who's subscribing and liking and commenting. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, that is the DVD collection update. It's now done out of the way. Hope you guys enjoy it, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye. Frontios is really good concepts, quite overlooked. Good story. Ow, bitch.